No. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program Teacher Certification class. My name is William. Wherever you are, if you're here at the headquarters in Abilene or you're anywhere on the face of the earth, please be seated. Thank you for joining us. No, I don't see him. Sorry, I'm having a technical issue again tonight. Story of my life. Okay, so Chris left off in the last class. We started lesson number 6 in the respect unit, and if you're joining us online, you can go to the top of the Facebook page, and there's a little drop-down menu where it talks about the where it has the books. We're in the 4th book of the series, the intermediate series, the respect unit. And we're going to be starting on chapter 6 tonight, so go ahead and feel free to download the unit and follow along with us. We're talking about developing a respectful reputation. And Chris left off on page 154, I believe, what's called cause and effect. But we're going to have to go back a little bit and do a little review. I still don't see any slides, so I'm going to go ahead and do a quick review of what Chris has been going over, which is quite a bit. Talking about reputation, and I guess one thing that really sticks out in my mind about developing a reputation is making sure that we try to make the right choice the first time so we don't have to go back and clean up our reputation later. It's always easy. Hindsight is 20/20, as they say. In fact, that's one of the quotes in the self-control unit. Hindsight, we can always look back and see how we could have done things differently and better. And really, when you think about it, when you're learning the peaceful solution, before you knew the peaceful solution, of course you made a bunch of bad choices, because you didn't even know what a right or wrong choice was. For the most part, because you didn't have the education to show you the difference between right and wrong. I still see nothing. I'm looking on my email to see if I have slides. I don't have any yet. Something must be going wrong with the email tonight. The system, let me see if that's Google. Anyway, so making the right choice the first time would help us to help alleviate regrets and the development of a bad reputation or a negative reputation. So it's better to make sure the choices we're making the first time won't lead us to a bad place where we have to go back and try to, because, as the Peaceful Solution teaches, developing a respectful reputation, it takes a long, long time to do something like that, okay? Or to rebuild a reputation takes a long, long time to do. But to develop a negative reputation literally can take place in just a couple seconds. One choice can wipe out everything that we've ever done. No one will remember what we did right. They'll only remember what we did wrong, in some cases. So, doesn't seem very fair, right? But who said life was fair? So, okay. Still trying to see if I got these slides. Nope. We have a glitch, and I'm going to try to do my best tonight, possibly to read the slides off the monitor instead of on my phone. Again, I'm reviewing just a little bit about reputation. Let's look on page, well, first of all, let's go ahead and look at the step we're on page LP6D. We're on step 3, where it says instruct students to turn to 147 and 148. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not step 3. I'm sorry, we're on step 4. It says have students read the section, the question of the day, found on page 149, which we've done. Role play the scenarios on page 149 to 151, which we've done. Have students answer the questions after each scenario and discuss as a class. Emphasize that the choice to engage in any negative or risk-taking behavior like premarital sex, alcohol and drug abuse, Bullying, truancy, and stealing will adversely affect their reputation and result in both short and long-term consequences. And then have students read the article, The High Price of Popularity, on page 153, and complete the exercise on page 154 in their handbooks. And that's where we were actually tonight, on 154. Before we go there, though, I do want to remind you that on page 147, we learned that your reputation is your overall character as seen or judged by others. And it's determined by our daily choices, attitudes, and actions. So if we want a positive reputation, we need to make sure our daily choices, attitudes, and actions are positive. Okay? And when I say positive, meaning, they're right actions, right attitude, right, David, the teacher David, he's really big on attitude. Attitude is everything. It does make a difference when you wake up in the morning what your attitude is. I know they call it the wrong side of the bed. I'm still trying to figure out what side that is. I know I get up on the right side of the bed. I never get up on the left side of the bed for some reason, but I'm right-handed, so that probably is why. I don't think there's a wrong side of the bed. You know what I'm saying? You can get up on either side and still have a great day, but it's all in your head. It's all in your thoughts. It's all how we think. Yeah. Miracles of modern ingenuity, Thank you, Michael. So remember, overall, your daily choices, attitudes, and actions. And then at the bottom of 147, we learned that earning the reputation of being a respectful person is no accident. It takes diligence, effort, and positive character traits like self-control and responsibility. By diligently developing your reputation, you can open the doors to success even before you knock. And then on page, page 148, we talked about how your reputation precedes you. That means that some people have already heard about you before you even meet them. And like the caption here in this illustration, the guy says, "Yeah, I've heard all about you." The guy says, "Hi, my name is Sam." And the guy's like, "Yeah, I've heard all about you." And he's like, "You have? Oh no, I wonder what he heard," right? Okay, well, he probably heard positive things if you have a positive, respectful reputation, right? Okay, but it goes before us, people hear about us, and it says your reputation can precede you and even influence people you have not met to expect a specific attitude or behavior from you. In many ways, your actions, whether respectful or disrespectful, will cast you into a particular mold of people who share similar behavioral patterns. Okay, so let's look over now on page 152. Let's go ahead and put up the first visual, because I think this one goes along with, It says, what it all boils down to, it says, as you can see, changing your reputation can be both difficult and easy. It all depends on the choices you make. The best thing to do is always choose to treat yourself, others, and their property in a respectful manner. When it comes to building a respectful reputation, it's better not to make negative choices than to try to correct them. And that's what I was saying at the beginning of the class was it's easier, or it's better not to make, I'm not saying easier, because if you didn't know, if you didn't have the self-control component, you didn't have the ability to stop and think and consider what you're getting ready to do before you do it, not to act impulsively, if you hadn't been trained in all that, then it's going to be real easy to make negative choices, okay? But, when you're trying to build a respectful reputation, it's better not to make the negative choices than to try to correct them later, okay, is what I was getting at. And then the straight talk on page 152 on the bottom says, if you act impulsively and choose to engage in any action that can bring harm to yourself and others, you're not practicing self-control, nor are you building a respectful reputation. And then Chris talked about on page 153 the high price of popularity. And then we left off on 154, cause and effect, and that's where we're going to be tonight. So at the top of page 154, it says cause and effect. The choices to engage in premarital sex, drug abuse, and other negative behavior has both long and short-term consequences that will affect your self-respect, health, and reputation. So let's go ahead and put up the next visual, and let's talk about the consequences, the cause and effect, long and short-term consequences of the next slide, please. Let's start with shoplifting. Shoplifting. So, yeah, probably a little bit. The short-term consequence of shoplifting, some of the answers it says could include not being allowed to go into the store, okay, anymore. You know, if you get caught stealing at a store, you might be barred from going in that particular store, and it might be a store that's really important, like Walmart. You know, you go there all the time, and now you can't go there, and it's the only Walmart, you know, within 50 miles of your house. So now you can't go in there, or you risk being arrested. You could get community service, you could be fined, you could go to jail. You know, again, if I'll remind you that in Laredo, Texas, we still have, it's not as popular today as it was back in the early 2000s, but we have a anti-theft program where the district attorneys would send people to Peaceful Solution class to take the course, and if they completed the course, the Peaceful Solution course, if they were charged with shoplifting, they would drop the charge. And they would suspend it for like 2 years, and if the person didn't get any more shoplifting charges within those 2 years, they would drop it completely off their record. And you would be surprised, you would be amazed at how many people did not want a shoplifting on their record. And we're talking about a lot of young people that were, you know, 16, 17, 18, somewhere between 16 and 25 years of age. Their parents would pay big money to make sure they did not have any kind of stealing on their record, because it could affect their entrance into college, their job opportunities later, etc. And they did not want anything like that on their record. So shoplifting is a big deal. Okay, it's a crime. Okay, I know in some places like some of these more liberal cities like San Francisco, I think they said, well, as long as you don't steal anything over, you know, $500, you know, we're not going to charge you with anything. So does that make it moral now? So we can go in the store and just grab $500 or less worth of stuff and we're okay? It's not stealing anymore? No, it's still stealing. If it doesn't belong to you and you didn't pay for it, you're stealing, okay? And I don't know how any business can stay in business that way. You know, in fact, I think a lot of businesses are leaving that area because of it, you know, because of these liberal policies of these, some of these, what do they call them, district attorneys that, you know, don't want to prosecute people for crimes. So who pays for that? We do. Okay, the shoplifting, we pay for it because we pay higher prices for everything that's stolen. The consumer gets the credit, right? We have to pay for what's stolen. So long-term consequences could include, could become part of your permanent record. If you put that slide back up, part of your permanent record. And how can this affect your reputation? Well, you're going to have the reputation of being a thief. Now, question for you. This is a really hard question. Put on your thinking caps now. How many times do you have to steal to be considered a thief? Only once. It only takes one time, and now you have the reputation of being a thief. Okay? And it might take quite a while and quite a lot of right choices to clean up that reputation. Okay? You have to remember, trust is not something you owe anybody. We don't owe anybody trust. What we do owe is respect. We owe respect to everybody, regardless of how they treat us, whether they respect us or whether they don't. We owe respect, but we do not owe trust. Trust must be earned. Okay, so if you steal something, don't expect everyone to just all of a sudden trust you around their belongings. Okay? And you need to understand that. We need to understand that we violated somebody's trust when we stole. So we need to understand what they're thinking in their mind about the situation too. It's not that they don't like you, or it's not that they don't love you, or whatever, but they're also very guarded because you have the reputation now of taking things without asking. So it's best not to take without asking in the first place, right? As we just learned where it told us, it's better to not to make negative choices than to try to correct them later, okay? Now, Chris also mentioned in the last class, when you take something, what did you do to replace it? Did you replace it? Like if you stole something from somebody, did you replace it? Because that's going to make a big difference in the mind of the person that you stole from. Because if you replaced what you stole, then restitution was made. You've restored to them what was taken, so they're going to be much more. I know me, if somebody did that for me, if somebody restored what they stole, it'd be like, okay, no problem, man. That person would earn my trust right there, okay? Because they paid it back, and it's now restored. Everything's back to where it was, okay? So, but if we don't, and we just think, well, I stole it, and I already did the time, so I don't owe you anything. And that's the sad thing about the justice system in America is, you can steal millions of dollars from somebody. In fact, if you break into somebody's house and steal their TV, and I'm talking from experience, I burglarized a few homes. I got 10 years for a burglary one time, for breaking into somebody's house and just stealing a TV set and some other items. I got 10 years for that. I saw people that were embezzling money out of companies, millions of dollars, only get 1 or 2 years in a federal prison. And I'm thinking, man, I should have stolen $1 million. I'd have been better off. No, I shouldn't have stole anything. But the point is, when we steal, we go to prison and we sit in prison. Who's paying for that prison? Well, the same person you stole from, right? They're having to pay taxes to incarcerate you. And for the correctional officers to be able to take care of you and feed you and give you a nice warm cot to sleep on and possible dental work and, free medical or whatever else they provide, right? And are they getting paid back? No, in fact, the judges, a lot of times, they don't even require you to pay restitution. And even if they do order you to pay restitution, you really think you're going to be able to pay that $2 million restitution? Working at McDonald's or Burger King or someplace, because you can't get a decent job anymore because, you got a record. It's not like Goldman Sachs is going to hire you or anything, embezzling money, right? Okay. All right, so let's look at the next slide. Let's go on to the cause and effect of premarital sex. Premarital sex. So the short-term consequence, remember we're going over short and long-term consequences and how it can affect our reputation. The short-term consequence of premarital sex, which is sex before marriage, and I don't care how old you are, premarital sex is any age, okay? It says possible unplanned pregnancy. Possible unplanned pregnancy. Now, what does that lead to? What do a lot of unplanned pregnancies lead to now? It's called abortion, right? Abortions, which means your child has to be murdered because no one wants it. It's unwanted. Also, it says possible sexually transmitted diseases or diseases. I hate to call them diseases because they're diseases. They bring dis-ease to your body and your brain and others around you too, because you become contaminated from those diseases that you can spread, okay, through touch, through spit, through sweat, and other means, okay? Long-term consequence of premarital sex could include possible parenthood, possible incurable diseases, and dropping out of school. I know in some schools they have what's called a PEP program, something early pregnancy, for young girls. if they get pregnant, they have a special school within the school for the pregnant girls to go to. But most of them don't go there. Most of them just drop out. You know, if they're pregnant, you know, they just figure, yeah, you know, that's the end of my education, you know, and they drop out. And because of that, they don't have the ability to get a diploma and possibly go on to college or whatever their plans might be to get a better job in life and to get ahead in life. Okay, and then how can having premarital sex affect your reputation? You can gain the reputation of being irresponsible and easy. Your name appears on the bathroom wall, you know, for a great time, call 687-5309. Right? Call Jenny. Right? Or Bob. Call Bob, you know, because, you know, you have gigolos too, right? That used to be a horrible thing when I went to high school. When you called a girl easy, that was basically calling her a slut. And them were fighting words back then with girls. Like, if a girl called another girl easy or a slut or something like that, man, it was on. It was catfight in the cafeteria. Claws were out. Hair was flying. Now, they call each other those names all the time. They greet each other that way. And it's like, hey, slut. And it's like nothing anymore. It's like nothing. That's filthy, horrible language. But it's become commonplace now. But like I said, I graduated in 1981. Man, I mean, how times have changed, you know? So anyway, premarital sex, that's cause and effect. Let's look at the next one. How about skipping school? Short-term consequence could be detention after school, you know, being held after school when you want to go out and have fun with your friends. Now you got to sit in detention and look at the clock for an hour. You know, I used to marvel at that because I would tell, as a peaceful solution promoter, I used to go to the schools and say, hey, you know what we could do during detention? We could teach the program during detention because, you know, they're coming to detention for about 45 minutes after school. We could give them a class during that 45 minutes to try to keep them out of detention. You know what I'm saying? Like we could show them how they can make better choices so they don't have to go to detention. We could use that time rather than them just sitting there looking at the clock. Tick, tick. And looking like they're in prison, you know, just sitting there looking at the clock or their head down on the desk, not doing anything. Like it's kind of like being in prison because you're not getting any education. You're not getting anything to help you make better choices, even though it's called the Department of Correction, right? Nobody's correcting you to try to get you on the right track for the most part. Most correction comes from yourself. Like if you want to be corrected, if you want to make better choices, you know, then you're going to pick up a book or you're going to try to find some program you can go to for self-improvement. But you're not required to do that. In fact, Alaska and Virginia are the only two states in the nation that you have a constitutional right to rehabilitation. You have a constitutional right to be rehabilitated. Alaska, and I was there. I was glad we had that because if they didn't give me that right, I could go straight to the state Supreme Court and take my case and say, they're not giving me any programs, they're not giving me anything to help me change. And the state Supreme Court would have to step in. And they would, because you have that state constitutional right to rehabilitation. Rehabilitation meaning to try to get you to change your ways, okay? Okay, so skipping school, detention, suspension, getting poor grades from missing work, not to mention your teachers don't trust you. Right? You get a reputation of being a reputation for playing hooky. I think that's what they called it, hooky, right? When I was growing up. I don't know what they call it now. Long-term consequences of skipping school, if you can put that back up, could be you will not able to get a great job without a proper education. you know. So if you like to skip school, go to the arcade. I don't know if they even have arcades. I think they have one here in Abilene. But that's what, when I was going to school, people would skip school to go to the arcade, or they would skip school and have parties or whatever. How can this affect your reputation? You will gain the reputation of not being serious-minded about your education, and you'll also be seen as irresponsible and untrustworthy. Remember, trustworthy is a positive character trait. That's something we want to develop, and we're not going to be able to develop it by not being responsible and going to school, okay? Now, as much as you don't like going to school, let me tell you a little story, okay? When I was in junior high, it was early on in my junior high. It was probably one of the first times I was out of jail or out of juvie where I went to junior high. And my first day there, they told us we needed to take showers in the shower room with other people, like for PE class. Like after PE, they required us to take a shower. And I was like, I ain't taking no shower with nobody. I don't take showers with, I didn't even like the Sesame Street, you know, Ernie and Bert in the same bathtub. I wasn't going into a shower with other children. That was extremely embarrassing. I was like, I don't even know how anybody could do that. Okay, so you know what I did? I didn't go to school. The next day, I said, I'm not going to school, man. I'm skipping, because I'm not going to take a shower with nobody. Okay? And, well, you know, I didn't quite handle it the right way, and because of my attitude about how I did things, I ended up going to prison where I had to take showers with other people, you know. It's the same situation, you know, in the prison, you know, they got other guys in the shower. It's embarrassing. To me, it's like, that should not even be, you know. It's like, that's a private, there's private things you do, you know. Taking showers, one of them, okay? But I skipped school because I was not going to do that, okay? And I didn't tell my parents. I just didn't go. To me, it was humiliating. I was like, no way, I don't see anybody could do that. So anyway, I ended up getting in a lot of trouble because I didn't go to school. I got in trouble and ended up right back in juvenile detention. Now, could I have handled that differently? I probably could have. I probably could have told the school, look, for religious reasons, I'm not taking no shower with anybody. And so therefore, I'll take a shower when I get home, okay? And they probably would have allowed me to do that if I'd have asked. You know, if I would have known the proper channels and I would have asked the proper people, I probably could have got that. But, you know, I took it on myself and I said, you know, I'm not going to ask anybody. I'm just going to make the decision on my own. I'm not going, you know. And it got me into a lot of trouble. Moral to the story is, ask. There might be other options you can do and not get yourself into trouble like I did, right? Okay, so the next one on cause and effect is called bullying. Bullying, the short-term consequence could include your peers won't like you, detention, suspension, or expulsion, where you're kicked out of school permanently, and then therefore no diploma. You know, if you get expulsion from school, you know, you basically are a dropout, or you know, you're looked at as a bum. You know, hey, this guy didn't even finish school. You know. Of course, nowadays I don't even think getting a diploma is a big deal. I think they give them what's called the GED. And it's basically the same thing, you know. You can get your GED and you can still go to college and get jobs and all that. But back in the day, you know, when I was going to school, you know, getting a diploma was everything. And I did get my diploma. I got it. That's one thing I got that to this day I still can't believe I got. I got a diploma. I actually graduated from high school, but guess what? I didn't earn it. Even that I stole. No, I didn't shoplift the diploma. You know, I got the diploma just like all the other children. I walked up on the stage and I was given the diploma, but I knew I didn't earn that diploma. You know why? Because my 6th grade science, or my 12th grade science teacher told me I could flunk you because you were nothing but a troublemaker. You haven't done anything I asked you to do this whole year. You've not turned in any of your assignments. He says, but I don't want to see your face next year, so I'm going to go ahead and just pass you. That's what he told me. I said, okay, I'll take it. And I graduated high school. But even to this day, I'm like, I didn't really graduate because I didn't earn it, okay? He just passed me so he didn't have to see me anymore. Okay. Also, long-term consequence of bullying could be violent and aggressive behavior that could lead to criminal behavior, like we saw that Chris read about that one case up in Washington, you know, where the boy went in, was it Moses Lake or somewhere, Washington, where he went in and shot somebody. He was 14 years old, and Chris went over all the details about his personal life, kind of showed where he was really at, that most people don't even consider. You know, he did a lot of research on that particular class, and I was impressed because those are the kind of things you don't read about in the newspaper. You only read about a bunch of, you know, the news glamorizes it. You know, they try to make it look like, you know, this guy was, they paint a picture of somebody that, and they never really look behind the scenes about all the things that person's going through, their personal life, their history, you know, their genetics, you know, their mental. A lot of times they will talk about their mental capabilities or incapabilities, but that's about as far as they go. These young people that shoot people, they've got some serious problems, you know, that have been building up all those years. And Chris went over that, and I was pretty impressive, all the research that was done there. Also, bullying, it says, how can this affect your reputation? You will gain the reputation of someone who abuses and takes advantage of others, and you would be seen as a troublemaker. A troublemaker. And finally, the cause and effect of substance abuse. And this would include substances, including beer, abusing, you know, because remember, you're a teenager. This is classes for teenagers. The students that you're going to be teaching are going to be middle school students. So drinking is not even permitted at that age. So they're actually abusing, even if they have one beer, they're abusing it because they're not even supposed to have it. You follow what I'm saying? So, but it can include beer, wine, any kind of liquor, marijuana, pills, cocaine, fentanyl, and any kind of illicit substance. The short-term consequence could be bad trips. And your student might say, well, what's a bad trip? You know, is that when you go to Los Angeles, you get robbed or something? No, a bad trip is when you take some LSD and you start freaking out because you get all scared and, you know, you think you're seeing things. I mean, you are seeing things, okay? You are seeing things, but you think it's real. So you start freaking out and going crazy and possibly, you know, end up in some hospital. That's called a bad trip, okay, in the drug language, okay? So it could be a bad trip. Addiction leads to other risk-taking behavior. You know, when you're addicted to drugs, ain't nobody safe when it comes to money being stolen, you know? I mean, you don't care if you rob your grandmother to get a fix, you know? Anybody's fair game at that point. And I'm telling you, I've seen people just deteriorate to where they don't care who they steal from, who they lie to. They don't care, man. Just to get that drug or even that drink, they'll lie and scam and scheme and plot and do whatever they have to get that, whatever they want, whatever they need. And so it leads to these crimes being committed. And not only will they steal, but they'll also sell their body for it. They'll actually go out and they'll sell their body on the street for $20. How safe do you think that is? You're some random stranger out on the street. You just go up there and you have some kind of fling with that person for $20 or $50 even, or even $100. That guy that's buying that from you or that girl that's buying it, does go both ways. They've got a disease. So you're going to get a disease. You're going to get it. So it's just your choice, I guess. Which disease do you want? That one there, that one there. It's kind of like going shopping, you know, chlamydia, syphilis, which is real big right now. I think Chris talked about it in the last class. The syphilis outbreaks we're having. Okay, so it also says long-term consequence of substance abuse could be serious addiction, unable to finish school, keep a job, or raise a family. Okay, because, you know, drug addicts ain't very responsible for the most part, you know. People that abuse substances, you know, they tend not to go to work. They tend to lose jobs. They tend to be drifters, going from job to job or house to house, apartment to apartment complex to apartment complex, one eviction to the next, you know. I mean, I know, been there, done that. A lot of us are talking from experience because we've had a lot of experience in making bad choices. And I'm not afraid to throw myself out there on Front Street because I don't mind talking and sharing my past, because I like to show that the peaceful solution, the power of the peaceful solution to change people's heart and mind, okay? Because I don't do those things anymore, okay? But I did do those things, okay? And again, it goes back to the lack of education, lack of training that we all had. So we all have a past. We all have made a lot of bad choices, not the same ones necessarily, but we've all made a lot of bad choices. Okay. How can this affect your reputation? Substance abuse. No one will trust you. You'll be known as unreliable, untrustworthy, and irresponsible. And by the way, even your fellow thieves won't trust you. Even your fellow drug addicts won't trust you. Right? So don't expect trust from anybody. All right. Let's see where I was going. Can you put up the next visual? Okay, all right. That's what I was doing. Okay, so let's go ahead and take that down. I just wanted to make sure where I was at. Well, let's turn over to, let's go back to our LP, let's see, LP1, LP6D. Let's go back to step number 5. We're going to start on step 5. It says, tell students that now that they have explored how negative behavior can destroy one's reputation, we're going to focus on how to develop and maintain a reputation that is respectful. Ask students to name the qualities needed to develop a respectful reputation, and answers could include self-control, discipline, and consistency. That's the recipe for developing a respectful reputation. Have students read the sections, the building blocks of a respectful reputation and reputation as character, found on page 158 to 162 in their handbook, and complete the exercise on page 162. Emphasize that by consistently demonstrating positive character traits, they can build a respectful reputation that will be a benefit for themselves and others. Okay, so let's look at page 156. Where it says it's just not worth it. It says, when you consider the high price of risk-taking behavior, it's just not worth it. Yet many people, both young and old, take risks that could change the outcome of their lives, fully aware of the price they could pay. Fully aware. A person who deliberately chooses to engage in risk-taking behavior has little or no value for his health, safety, or well-being. Now, that word deliberately means it's like a jury. You know, a jury deliberates. You know, when they come and they hear a case, they hear all the facts that are presented in the case from both sides, and then they're instructed by the judge in the law of the land and how to apply that law in that case, and then they go into a room and they deliberate, or they weigh the facts that are presented to them, and they make a decision. So a deliberate choice means that you've considered, right? You've considered, like, I know if I do this, I could end up getting, 99 years in jail. Or, if I do this and I get caught, this could mean, the rest of my life, with a roommate named Bubba, etc. I mean, it's a deliberate choice. It means that you thought about it, you pondered it, and you decided you're going to go ahead and do it, knowing the facts of what could take place if you got caught. So it says, A person who deliberately chooses to engage in risk-taking behavior has little or no value for his health, safety, or well-being. Now, I know if I sleep with that person, I just met them, I don't know what they got, but I'll risk it. I'll risk it because you know what? How could something so wrong feel so right? And besides, I have a condom. I got one in my back pocket. Yeah, I'll be safe. That group came to our school and told us, if we use that piece of plastic, we're going to be safe. We're practicing safe sex if we use that. Well, what they failed to tell you was, on the wrapper on the back of that condom, it says, this really only is for pregnancies. This will not protect you against STDs, etc. Here's the bottom line. Everyone's life has value. It's dependent upon each individual, however, to determine their value and to make positive choices that will keep them safe and healthy. And I know a lot of people will say, I don't really care too much about, nobody cares about me. I'm not really worth much anyway, Let me just eat, drink, and tomorrow I die, But that's not the case. Everyone has value. Everybody does have value. The problem is we don't hear it all the time. No one's promoting that. No one's telling us, hey, son, did you know that you're a very valuable person to me? That you're a very valuable person to society, that you have a lot to contribute? Nobody's telling us that at the breakfast table before we go to school. I'm not saying all parents, but there's some parents that do tell their children things like that do try to build them up and try to keep them on the right track and keep them thinking positive about life, But for the most part, there isn't any communication like that going on, so they don't really hear too much about their value and how important they are as a human being. And certainly none of their friends are telling them that, I mean, most of them are trying to get them to do things that devalue themselves, right? So it says, let's take a closer look at why people damage their reputations and jeopardize their safety and well-being by deliberately engaging in risk-taking behavior. So let's look at the next visual. Here's one reason. I was bored. It says a local TV station recently reported that 3 teenagers were arrested for vandalizing 2 newly built homes, causing thousands of dollars in damages. When asked why they engaged in this type of behavior, one of the teens said, "We were bored. We were just looking for something to do." Nobody should be that bored. Read, draw, or learn to play an instrument if you're bored, but don't vandalize and destroy someone else's property. I'm bored, so I'm going to go destroy property. Well, you know what? Here's a cold, hard fact that I can tell you. After 20 years of sitting in a prison, you think you're bored at home? You think you're bored at home and don't have nothing to do? You're going to be really bored when you go in that prison cell. That's called boredom. Okay? You think you're bored? Think about it. No, you're not. The only reason you're bored is you're not thinking of things to do. There's plenty of things to do. Okay? The problem is you don't value anything but sitting around being a vegetable on the couch, watching television and vegetating, as we used to call it. Find something to do, something productive. There's always something to do. Like it says here, draw, learn to play an instrument, go bake some cookies, right? Go mow the lawn, Ask what you can do for your country, not what your country can do for you, Volunteer somewhere, do something, but don't sit there and say, I'm bored. I'm bored. Bored? And certainly don't go out vandalizing and destroying someone's property because you're bored, As I said, you think you're bored now. How about the next one? Let's go to the next visual. I just want to be popular, I just want to be popular. That's why I jeopardize my safety and damage my reputation because I want to be popular, like this guy, like this tightrope walker here. I sure hope he recovers in his balance there, don't you? It's not looking great. So it says in the article, The High Price of Popularity, some of the consequences of deliberately engaging in risk-taking behaviors were explored. Risking one's reputation just to be popular can occur to both males and females. Both sexes are just as susceptible to making negative choices for the sake of popularity. The problem with popularity that comes from making poor choices is that it robs you of your self-respect and dignity. If you want to be popular for making right choices that you will not regret later on. Okay? Be popular for the right reasons. And I know that's probably not an easy thing in this day and age, right? Being popular for the right reasons. But it can take place, A lot of people are looking for a light in a dark room because the world is a very dark place. So when they see somebody that has a positive attitude, that's respectful, that doesn't steal, that always asks permission before they touch or take something from somebody that's always polite, somebody that's always has a great attitude and a great outlook and tries to diffuse conflicts, somebody that's optimistic about things. People are looking for that. People want that. People really desire, when they see something like that, it shines out. It shines to them, because they don't see that in most people. Okay, so it says at the top of page 157, don't let shame be the price of your fame. Don't let shame be the price of your fame. Let's look at the next visual. Here's another one. It can't occur to me. Right? It can't occur to me. I can't get an STD, I'm William Krause. You can get STDs around here. I'm 6 foot and bulletproof, man. Did you know? I got a condom, so, I'm protected. No one can hurt me. Nothing can penetrate this fortress. I got a Trojan. Yeah, y'all know the story about the Trojan horse, right? In Troy, the city of Troy, where the enemy rolled in the Trojan horse into the town, and there was soldiers inside the belly of the horse. They gave it as a gift, making them think that it was a gift, but there was really the enemy was inside. And then they left in their ships, made it look like they were leaving. And then in the middle of the night, I guess the guys in the belly of the horse came out and took over the city. But they thought it was a gift, and there wasn't anything in it. It just looked like a nice little pretty horse, right? Well, he called it the Trojan horse. That's what those condoms are also. The brand name is Trojan. Trojan. So I've always looked at it like a Trojan horse. They promise protection, but it's all fake. There's no protection in premarital sex. There's no protection in breaking the rules. There's no protection in any of that. The only protection we have is keeping the rules. That's what keeps us safe and healthy and protected, is doing what the rules say. Don't have sex before you're married. Get to know that person through conversation, through, taking time with them, observation. What do they do when they're faced with a moral decision? You need to get all those things, learn those things about somebody before we decide, that's the one I want to be with. Because it can occur to you. So let's read about that. It says, it can't occur to me. It can't? If teenage pregnancies, date rape, sexually transmitted diseases, and juvenile detention can occur to millions of teenagers every year, it can occur to you too, if you make the same choices. This kind of thinking is like saying, I know that fire burns, but if I stick my hand in the flame, it won't burn me. Yeah, right. Fire burns, period. It can't distinguish between your hand and someone else's. Risk-taking behavior is bad news. It's like playing with fire, and you're just as likely to get hurt as anyone else. So quit thinking because your last name is, Johnson, and, you were raised in this really important neighborhood over here, and because my daddy's a fire marshal or whatever, my mom, she's a really important person down at City Hall, and, my dad's a cop, he knows everyone in town, that can't occur to me. I'll never go to prison, They'll never let that occur to me. Well, guess what? It's going to occur to you too. You're fooling yourself. You're only going to be able to get away with things so long. And you don't get away with it anyway. Y'all know that, right? The consequences can come immediately or they can come later on, but they're coming, okay? They're coming. And even if you don't get caught, you already suffered a consequence. You're already suffering a consequence because you're thinking, hey, I didn't get caught. I could do it again. Well, guess what? You keep doing it, eventually, it's going to catch up to you. Okay, how about the next one? Let's put up the next visual. My friends do that stuff, I don't. My friends do that stuff, I don't. I just hang around with them, It says, in time, you will. It's a proven fact that you are more likely to be influenced to engage in risky behavior if you're around others who do. There's an old adage saying, birds of a feather flock together. There's also another adage that says, bad company corrupts moral character. One bad apple spoils the whole bunch. Heard of that one, sure. Well, given enough time, you will become just like the company you keep. Think about it. Why would you want to be around people who disrespect themselves and others and whose only goals are to sneak around with their latest boyfriend or girlfriend, go to the mall to shoplift, or indulge in substance abuse? Hey, there's so much more to life than that. And you know what? Those are the kind of people I used to hang around that I called friends. The same people, people that snuck around, people that disrespected themselves, that stole, that put drugs into their bodies, that slept with people, sometimes 2 or 3 a night. These were my friends. These were people I hung around with. These were people I looked up to. But it says there's so much more to life than that. Choose not to be in the company of people who do negative things. The truth is, it's better to stand alone than to stand with others who can influence you to make choices that you will regret. Notice that you will regret. You're going to regret it. You're going to regret it one day. Right now, you think you're flying high and everything's great. I can't get caught. Yeah, talk to Pablo Escobar and the rest of them, that thought the same thing. They had billions of dollars. They had all the cops in their pocket. They had cameras. They lived in palaces and fortresses that were surrounded with security. And they thought they had multiple places to live. They had animals. They had whole zoos. They had entertainment galore. They had anything they wanted. They had everybody. The world was theirs, as Scarface said. The world is mine. The world was theirs, and guess what? Their world came to a crashing end. Every one of them that thought that way are no longer around. Every one of them. When Pablo Escobar died, he only had one friend left, who was his bodyguard. Out of thousands and thousands of people that used to hang out with him, because he was such a popular guy, one person stuck with him. That was it. And that was because he was getting paid to be his bodyguard. So, okay, it says, have positive role models, people you can look up to who will guide you toward what is morally correct. Be sure that the friends you choose share similar positive characteristics. In this way, you can encourage each other to be respectful and pursue positive goals. Okay? You can be respectful You can encourage each other to be respectful and pursue positive goals. That's what true friends do. You know, they encourage each other to do the right thing. Now, the last one that we're going to go over on the next slide is, I'm old enough to do whatever I want. I'm old enough to do whatever I want. This is another reason people damage their reputations, jeopardize their safety and their well-being by deliberately engaging in risk-taking behavior because, hey, I'm old enough to do whatever I want. I'm free, white, and 21, right? It says people mature a lot faster physically than they do mentally. That's a fact. In other words, physically you might look like an adult and even act like an adult, but mentally you're not really ready for the responsibilities that certain choices bring. For example, over 1 million teenage girls and boys become parents every year. Children of teenage parents are more likely to be neglected and abused, both physically and emotionally, than children born to adult parents who are married and in a secure, loving relationship. So, like that girl you see there in the picture, you know, she's probably about 15 years old, and she's got a baby that's probably crying, you know, all night, and she's like, what have I done? You know, like, what am I going to do with a baby, man? I want to go to the parties with my friends, and I want to go to school, and I want to have fun, and I'm stuck with this baby here. And the baby's crying, you know, because they have needs, you know, and mom's frustrated, and she becomes angry and bitter because of her situation, and next thing you know, that child's being abused. Okay? That's what occurs, because they get frustrated and they get angry because of the choice they made. Well, you know, here's newsflash, you know. Think first. Yeah, you're old enough to have sex, you know. Any age can have sex, right? Anybody can have sex, but are you ready? Are you ready? Mentally, you know, emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually? No, you're not. That's why you need to do things properly, decently, and properly in order, you know, not just on a whim. Because, yeah, you might be old enough to do whatever you want, but you're also old enough to suffer the consequences of doing whatever you want. Right? Live with it. We got to live with whatever it is we chose to do. We can't blame everybody else for that unwanted pregnancy. If you didn't want pregnancy, you know, that's what gets me about that term unwanted pregnancy. If you didn't want it, you don't do things to get pregnant, right? If you don't want something, if you don't want a flat tire, do you run over a bag of nails? Yes, no. If you don't want hamburger tonight, do you go to the store and buy hamburger? Yes? No? Right. So just don't engage in whatever you don't want, right? I mean, and in order to do that, stop, think, consider your options, right? And proceed with the right choice. The right choice won't get you pregnant. The right choice won't do something that could possibly get you pregnant, even if you wear a condom, because condoms ain't a guarantee you won't get pregnant either. Okay? So we need to stop putting our trust in all the condoms and all the other things that we're being told are going to protect us, and we need to put our trust in the protection that comes from following the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program principles that we're learning here tonight. What's the last class? The next class, Michael? Today is the 6th, it'll be the 9th, right? Yeah, so the next class will be on August 9th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We hope you join us. We're glad you came tonight. Try to stay cool, and we'll see you next time.